is Robbie Daniel, the editor of the Lafayette Press, and we're here, as always, on Thursday mornings with Campbell County High School head football coach Justin Price. Justin, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Robbie. I appreciate it.
So, it's playoff week. What's going through, your mind and everything like leading up to this game in Athens on Friday?
Well, I think the playoffs are just a special time. I think you've obviously earned the right to be in this game, and to be on this stage, and not every team gets to make the playoffs, and so I think our players have done a good job to get to this situation, to get to this point, to be in this situation, and so once you're here, you want to take advantage of it, enjoy it, and use this week of practice to make sure you're at your best, because when it comes to playoff time, you need to be at your best.
Is there now that there's some perspective? Is there anything that you've taken away from looking back at the Oak Ridge game on Friday?
Well, obviously the Oak Ridge game, we weren't at our best, and it got just early on we didn't catch any breaks, and Oak Ridge is playing really well right now. They're getting healthy, and I think when they were up 14-0 before we got the football offensively, and really the first drive offensively we looked pretty good. We got down to the 7-yard line. We were unable to score, but I felt, I think at that point, felt like we were going to be able to move the ball, and then defense got a stop after that. So we had the ball 2 times when we were down by 14, but just couldn't get in the end zone, and never really got in a rhythm offensively after that first drive. At least maybe towards the end we did. But, I think, the big thing that you got to take away from that game is, let's look at what were the reasons we weren't at our best. Because we'd had a great week of practice. I felt we had a lot of confidence going into that game. Mm-hmm. So let's look and see what can we learn from it. But I think that's the one thing about being in the playoffs. You can't dwell on that. No matter what, the first round of the playoffs game is going to be tough. Most of the team, pretty much every team that's in the playoffs are pretty good. So you don't have long to dwell on that, whether you win or lose. And it's kind of a fresh start when you get to the playoffs. So I think. I feel like this week at practice, our players have responded well. I don't think we let the way we performed at Oak Ridge, take any confidence from us, and it shouldn't have. You got to learn from it, but you shouldn't let that one game change the way that we were playing and the way that the confidence that we were playing with.
What's the schedule like on Friday? Obviously, you guys have had some long road trips all the way to Chattanooga Central last year. You're going all the way to Athens, about halfway there on Friday. What's the schedule like? How do you get the kids to where how do you get them used to that long road trip?
Well, like you're saying, we went to Chattanooga Central last year, went to Ray County last year. This year Sevier County and Kingston. They're not too far, mm-hmm. But so kind of our schedule for tomorrow. We'll leave the school around 2 o'clock. We got 2 chartered buses, so be comfortable, ride down there. We'll stop about. We're gonna stop in Lenore City, mm-hmm. At a Cracker Barrel, get something to eat, and then arrive at the stadium around. Try to get there around 5 o'clock. We try to get there about 2 hours before kickoff, and so it'll be very similar to most of our road trips. Obviously, we're gonna stop and eat, which will be a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But I think that. At this point, you kind of have your routine of what you do on away games, mm-hmm. And so I don't think it'll be an issue. Mm-hmm. I think we've done enough of that this season to kind of know what the expectation is, and just to get down there and the key is I think one thing is we'll be comfortable riding down there, and that's going to be key. And and the thing is, I want our players to enjoy this experience. It's these when you get in the playoffs, nothing's guaranteed anymore. So, I think that to be in this stage 5A playoffs, we wanted to be an experience that they remember, but one that they enjoy, and also put them in. We're going to do what we can to make sure that we're prepared to play this game.
Do you feel like the Oak Ridge defense, they did their best to kind of take away the long ball for Campbell County?
They did. I think they did a few things. Early they were playing some zone coverage. I think at one point they had like 5 DBs just kind of mm-hmm. playing deep and trying to keep everything in front of them. And we were able to, hit them intermediate throws, mm-hmm. which, we can do as well pretty good. I think the biggest challenge we had with Oak Ridge at times was when we would go no back sets, they were going to go cover zero on blitz. And we had some answers, but early on we didn't do, probably didn't put ourselves, from a play caller standpoint, put Hensley in the best situation possible. He was able to get some, down the end zone. There was a couple times he got rid of the football, and Shanks almost made a great catch, and one he kind of missed a little bit to Devin. But even after that, there's some things we probably could have done looking back that would have helped out a little bit. We made one adjustment at halftime, and we hit it in the third quarter. Devin had about a 30-something yard gain on it, just a little bit of a quicker throw than we normally do with Devin. And so those little things that, I think if we could have had him in earlier would have helped. But, I think that was this is kind of the first time we've seen somebody bring 6, play cover 0, and we're in a no back set. Well, when you do the math on that, we only got 5 linemen, so somebody's coming free.
Yeah.
So we got schematic answers to that. We tried a couple screens and they weren't as effective, and so a lot of that is to credit Oak Ridge. They were playing well, but at the same time, it's I think if we saw that again, we'll be more prepared.
So what does McMinn look like on film?
They're very disciplined. I think they're a physical football team, which speaks to how well coached that they are. So they're going to defensively. I mean, they're very simple from what we've seen on film as far as the coverage that they play, the front that they play. They're not a heavy blitz team, and so I think our but with that, sometimes when teams are very simple, they're very good at what they do, and they also probably know how we're going to try to attack them. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup there for our offense versus their defense. And then their offense, they got a talented quarterback, talented running back, again, physical up front, and they run their quarterback some, which is always difficult. When you got to count for the quarterback runs on defense, it just adds a different element to prepare for things. And so, I think we're obviously prepared. We've seen this style of offense before. The big thing on defense is play with great effort, and try to get off, try to shed blocks, pursue the football, and make some tackles.
Is it hard to get a gauge of, where obviously McMinn's a good football team. I think they finished 8-2 on the season. But is it also hard to get a gauge on that district or that region, considering some traditionally powerful teams don't have the best win-loss records? I think I saw that. McMinn played a close game with Cleveland. Cleveland beat Maryville, but at the same time, I think I heard Park Packers say that people don't really understand the Cleveland-Maryville result, and that McMinn lost to Bradley Central and Maryville blew out Bradley Central. So it's like,
yeah, there's a lot. When you talk about, I guess, the transitive property, sometimes that's hard to predict. Because football's all about matchup. So if our strengths, their weaknesses, you're going to have a good shot. But if our weaknesses are their strengths, then it's going to be tough on us. Yeah. So but when you look at McMinn, obviously they won a 5A region, which is a big deal. I think Walker Valley's a good football team, and I think they're 4-6 or 5-5. And Ray County, traditionally is really talented and really good and well coached. And I know their record is 2-8, but if you look at their schedule, they've played a tough schedule, and they've played some tight games that they've lost. So, and then Ooltewah's traditionally been pretty good, and I think they're 1-9 going into the playoffs. So it's when you look at overall records, you would assume that, but I still think McMinn County has beat some good football teams in their region and obviously earned that number 1 spot.
Shanks had a great game. We talked with him a little bit after the game, but I think he had 5 catches in that first drive that you guys had against Oak Ridge.
Yeah, Mason's playing really well right now. He's practicing at a very high level. And, he just played so much. And Mason, along with Devin and Ferguson, Miller, they each have their skill set that makes them dynamic and makes them tough. And, different defenses are going to leave different players open. And our job is just to find them. And, Shanks had a big night against Oak Ridge. was really getting open quite a bit, and him and Hensley work well together. And but I think a lot of that's just Mason's playing really well right now. He's got a lot of confidence, practicing hard, and so I expect him to have a big night tomorrow night as well.
Are there things that you feel like the team really needs to work on that you saw on Friday?
Well, I think it was, I think the flow of the Oak Ridge game, where it's hard to gauge a lot from that game.
Mm-hmm.
It just, again, it kind of got out of hand for us quick, especially we didn't have offensively didn't have as many reps, and you're down 21-0, then 28-0, and 34-0, and it was just kind of that snowball effect, and things just weren't going well for us. So I think it was just, sometimes you're not going to be at your best, unfortunately. I mean, you want to be, and obviously Friday, it was disappointing in the way we played. We don't want to do that again, and that starts with me as a head coach, and we got to make sure what can we do differently that doesn't happen again. And but so I think you just kind of learn that more of not necessarily the game, because I didn't feel like from a performance level there's even there's some things we could have done better, some scheme things we could have done to help us, but it was more to me just the flow of the game. What can we do? Whatever it is, do we need to be more prepared? Do we need to be more relaxed? Whatever it is. And at the same time, you played a really good football team. I mean, Oak Ridge is a good team that played really well. And sometimes you play teams that they're going to play really well. And so I think the big thing for us is take that, but don't let that game take away from what we've been able to accomplish to get to this point.
Yeah, how do you get like what has been your approach, the coaching staff's approach, to kind of get the players' minds off that last year, ensure that it's kind of in the background and we're
well, I think it's the routine of how we approach every game, really. Yeah. Whether we've beat Clinton in overtime or lost to 1 point to Kingston, or obviously not play very well against Oak Ridge and get beat. Like, we're going to watch the film, talk about things we could have done better, and then you got to move on and move on with the purpose of how do we improve from the previous week, win or lose? What can we do so that we maximize our team? So I think a lot of it, what we do is just so routine, and I think that's part of process-driven programs. When you need a routine so that there's some consistency in how do we get better each week, and we try to do that. Sometimes you got to mix it up. Sometimes it's different things you may need to work on, but for the most part, we're pretty consistent in how we approach it, which I think gives us the best opportunity to improve, which maximizes this team in 2022. And so, I think we moved on. I think the big thing was, the added part to this week is, it's the playoffs. You mentioned that, and it just has it's a different feel. There's when you go in that game Friday for like the seniors, there's a possibility that this is your last game, and, so you have that, you have, you're probably playing a pretty good team round one anyway. So move on from that, and so I think that helps. I think that'd been hard, maybe a little harder in the regular season, where it kind of stuck around maybe for a few more days or more weeks or whatever. But so I feel like this week of practice, it's not been anything that is, I feel like we're confident. I feel like we've had a good week of practice. I feel like we're going to be prepared for a very good team.
Last question. What do you think is going to be like the key to beating McMinn on Friday?
Well, you kind of look at all three phases, because I think it's important that you try to win all three phases of the game. I think special teams is, I think it's going to be key for us to, try to change field position a little bit in special teams. Sometimes on kickoff, our defense, is already at the 50-yard line on first down, or the first play of the series, and so let's try to make them drive the field more, whether it's punting or kickoffs or whatever it is, and then let's get some return game. If their kicker can kick in the end zone, but if it's not in the end zone, let's return this and go. And so I think that's key, just field position when it comes to special teams. Obviously defense, and we've been saying, but create negative plays, and we need to create some turnovers. I don't think we had any turnovers against Oak Ridge from what I can remember. And I can't remember even Sevier County, but early on this season we were having quite a few turnovers. I feel like if my memory's right, it's been a long year, but I feel like I think it's important to create negative plays and turnovers. obviously the other stuff that goes into there, eliminate big plays. But I think in a playoff game with two really good football teams, if you can create some negative plays and force them to do some things they don't maybe are as good at or not comfortable with, and then the turnovers, just momentum so huge in that. And then offensively, it's obviously who we are as an offense is we throw the ball pretty well. And so I think for us is to make sure that the plays that we feel like that we're the best at, that we execute those, and we have a chance to make a big play. Let's do that. So, I think that's the key kind of in all three phases. And I know some of it's kind of coach talk. I probably could say the same thing every week, but obviously with the playoffs, all those are going to be very important.
Thank you, Campbell County High School head football coach Justin Price. We'll be in Athens. We'll be live tweeting the game as always. We'll have updates and video on social media. We'll also have our election results coverage on Tuesday night on Facebook Live.